Hey, everybody out there in TV land. Welcome to my show, syllaBLISS or syllaBUST. I, of course, am your host, the fake professor. And on my show, syllaBLISS or syllaBUST, I comb through college syllabi from across the nation. Because after teaching college for almost 2 decades, 5-time teacher of the year, I realized I developed only one skill, and that is the ability to look at college syllabi, read between the lines, and tell you, my loyal viewers, if students in that class can expect a blissful experience or if they're straight up effing screwed. So this is all in good fun. It's not meant to be mean-spirited, and these are really just stylistic differences. And most importantly, we, and that's the royal we, are only using syllabi in the public domain. And let me just say that teaching college, especially, particularly in 2025, is very challenging. So who are we doing today? What are we getting into today? Well, I'm really excited to keep going with the poli-sci syllabi. And today we're doing another prestigious, small, um, low enrollment, high tuition, liberal arts university, well known, the University of Richmond, of course, in Virginia. University of Richmond in Virginia, political science. Let's get into it. Okay, folks, here we go. Introduction to American government. Does it work? Very cool. Let's take a look at what's going on. Now, I got to admit, I've already done this show once, this syllabus, and I lost the entire show. And so I am re-recording it here. So this is one of the few times where I've actually already seen the syllabus. You know, I always do this cold so I get an honest response. But if I'm being honest, I already did this. And for some reason, my camera shut off midway through. So I'm redoing it. So I'm just going to jump to the main things that I found in this syllabus. And one of the main things that I really liked about this syllabus is right out of the gate, you can see how do they start out this syllabus? What is their appetizer section on the menu? What do they want to emphasize to students at the beginning? Is our government working? What is your standard for evaluation? How will you bring data to bear to answer your question? We can all talk about what we prefer from government, be it a party or a policy. But is that government not working or just not working for you? I thought that was a really cool way to start the class, right? So are you complaining about something that's actually a problem, or are you complaining about something that you just don't like for you? I really like that. That is a really good way to start this as an academic class. And you're going to see this instructor really leans into what I think is a really cool and important perspective, which is I don't care what your opinion is, and all opinions are welcome. I care if you can back your opinion up with evidence and data. And that really should be the standard for college, in my opinion. And so we're going to see that this professor really leans into that. Okay. So let's go down now to a couple other things I want to draw your attention to that I really liked about this syllabus and some things that I did not like. One thing, here's what I didn't like. To be successful in this course, you should expect to devote an average of 10 to 14 hours each week. That seems unreasonable. I got to be honest. I don't think anyone's doing that. And that doesn't really offer a strategy to be successful. It just says, you got to devote an unreasonable time to this course. I didn't like that. Now, the course objectives, I really thought there was some really important stuff in here. The primary goal for this course is to increase your knowledge of American government. That makes sense for a class about American government. Secondly, you will become more informed citizens, able to consume news and political media with a better understanding of the details. This will enable you to use critical thinking about your attitudes and opinions to better express yourself in political discussions. Lastly, you'll be able to view the actions of your government based on systematic criteria instead of subjective and popular norms of ideology or partnership. Ultimately, what this instructor is talking about is we're going to teach you, at least from our perspective, how to identify good data, analyze that data, and then build that into your argument. So when you're making a political argument, you're not just making it based on norms or ideology, you're making it based on data. And I really appreciate that in this course because anytime you're talking politics in 2025, you're going to have to talk about heavy stuff, controversial things, things that people have very intense opinions about. And that's just hard to do. It's always been hard to do. It's harder to do now. But by focusing it on whatever your opinion is, can you back it up in an intellectual, academically honest way? I really like that approach. Class procedures and best practices. Now, here is where you can see that this instructor is very old school and kind of romanticizes what it was like when they were a student. When you see there are no laptops allowed in a class, that's pretty extreme in 2025. And the rationale for that is not something actually I agree with as somebody who actually studies how people process information and the brain works. Um, this instructor says, by forcing you to take notes by hand, it will limit distractions for you and your classmates. And that is very true. But one of the reasons why that is the case is because, as you know, you've been in classes where you have to write everything by hand. It's way slower. And so you can't talk or screw around because you have your head down in your notebook trying to write everything down. And while there is less noise and less distraction of technology going on, the problem is that you have to have your head down in the notebook to write stuff down. And so there is a middle bowl of porridge here, and it doesn't look like that this instructor is trying to find that with technology. I believe it promotes more listening and less copying of the discussion slides. Now, again, that might be true. This is from their experience, and they've clearly been doing this a lot. Okay. Now, other things that were interesting here. They have a textbook, looks like a big, expensive textbook, but to their credit, it is new. You are talking about stuff that is very new and is very dynamic. If you're going to assign a textbook, it's got to be new, and this instructor does. So kudos to them. That is excellent. You can see in their email policy, they say it may take 1 to 2 days to respond. I don't think that you can get away with that in 2025, and I doubt that they do. But what I did really like, and this was a sign of someone who meant business, please limit your emails to question about the class. Any grievance involving the class must be handled during office hours. And you're going to see that this instructor has a very formal grievance policy that requires you to put everything down on paper. I really appreciate them saying, if you email me a freak out email, I'm just not going to respond to it. If you got an issue, you're going to have to address that in person. I appreciate that. I think that's the way to do it. Okay. Now, one of the things that I think is really, really weak about this syllabus, if you take a look at it, well, we'll get into that in a second. You can see the exams here. Um, Late submissions for any assignments will only be accepted in extreme circumstances and at the discretion of the professor. In my opinion, that is an extremely weak policy. It doesn't matter if you bold the word extreme, if you put it in caps, if you italicize it. The moment you say that I'll only give you an excuse if it's nasty enough, if your suffering is great enough, and guess who determines if your suffering is great enough? I do. You are setting yourself up to really not have a good semester. That is how instructors break down over time. They think by doing things case by case, they can actually kind of thread the needle by listening to students and honoring their concerns while at the same time kind of being strict about the policy. And it just doesn't work that way. In 2025, with all the ways for students to share your emails with people, to publicize what they're saying, to crap on you online, and all that stuff, getting into a back and forth with tons of students, but more importantly, letting them know that if they do not get the extension, it is entirely because the instructor decided their suffering was not sufficient. You are setting yourself up for some very uncomfortable conversations and with a lot of students. And so I strongly recommend against that. And I think the syllabi that avoid case by case things and have a more objective policy where if you just miss something, it's dropped. And after a certain number of misses, it's not dropped anymore is the best way to stay sane as an instructor. Okay, let's keep going here. Great. Okay, we talked about that. Okay, you can see that here. Chapter and reading summaries. Okay, nothing. Now, a lot of this class is blue book writing essays, and it's about political argumentation. So it's going to be subjective. There's no way around it. I appreciate this instructor has a grading rubric. They try the best they can to make that objective. And it's challenging to do, but you got to like it when they do. Now take a look at what they're italicizing. Again, anytime an instructor draws attention to text on a syllabus, you're going to want to pay attention. They're doing that for a reason. Think outside the box for your chapter summaries. Things that uniquely interest you. It doesn't have to be even connected to this class or class discussion. Look for things you would like to do more reading research on. Hey, anytime you see an instructor tell you that, you got to like that, right? I want you to think outside the box. I want you to explore things that matter to you. That's dope. And I love this paragraph here. Ideology versus evidence. Everyone has an ideology. Everyone has priors based on quantifiable attributes we can discuss, and we can actually measure your priors. Not all ideologies or belief systems are political, absolutely. And the expression of your belief system, your ideology is welcome, but it must be backed up by evidence. Even if it is, this many people agree with this viewpoint. That is not sufficient to just say, hey, everybody agrees with me. Don't you know? People are talking. We actually want to train you to learn to present objective evidence in your argumentation politically. You are permitted to express most any ideology you hold as long as it is not explicitly harmful. And I really appreciate that, right? We've seen some syllabi that says, if you say something and somebody interprets it as harmful, regardless of your intention, then you still have to deal with that. You are culpable. This instructor is saying, listen, we're going to be talking about heavy things here. People have very strong opinions, and those are going to be very different. As long as you can back it up with facts and evidence, you're welcome to express your opinion. As long as it's not intended to harm somebody, I really like that. Liberal nor conservative views will receive lower or harsher grades simply because they're liberal or conservative. It is about whether government is working from that point of view and your evidence. If there is a better statement about what college is supposed to be, I don't know if I've seen one. That alone was excellent. Participation, you can see this has got this instructor is old school. You got to be there. You got to participate. And check this out. Know that you may be called upon in class. I'm seeing more and more instructors start to say, hey, we're going back to calling on people. And I know that made some people anxious, but if we're going to prepare you for the real world, We have to start navigating that anxiety. So I really, really appreciate that. And he's telling students it's not gonna be a gotcha question, but it is, I might want to hear your opinion. So you got to be ready. Very nice. Now, here you can see with procedure for dealing with grade concerns. And what I like about this, again, you can really tell a lot about your instructor with these policies. Are they approaching the descent into madness, or have they set up a policy to keep themselves from descending into madness? This is a good policy. If you have a conflict, you have to put it in paper, you have to present evidence, and you have to submit it by a reasonable time. I think that is a very good, strong policy. Now, here is something I don't like. The academic dishonesty includes a thing about AI that is very AI puritanistic. Again, and you see this a lot with older school professors who just say it's all bad. And not only is it all bad, it's worse than you could have ever imagined. And if you do it, you're dumb or you're going to get, bad stuff. Now, this one, you do have to acknowledge. So this instructor is saying, don't use AI. It's lazy. It will produce product not up to the standards of the university. Unfortunately, AI has been producing product up to the standard of universities for the last 2 years. Instructors just haven't known that or just haven't wanted to accept it. You will not train the algorithm enough to make it conducive to this class. It's already been trained to be superior to this class. I'm sorry. And then if you're suspected of using it, we might investigate. So it's a pretty weak policy, because it's hard to make it much stronger. So I don't agree with that at all, but at least they say something about it. And frankly, if you have an instructor who doesn't allow you to have a computer at all in the classroom, they're probably not going to allow you to use AI. For the students with disability section, special needs seems like old language, frankly. And again, this is troubling because I'm not seeing a phone number or names. I've seen a lot of syllabi kind of, not putting their disability stuff high up and giving, this is one of the most important sections in the syllabus. Not liking to see this de-emphasized. And then lastly, you can see the instructor does an excellent job then of representing the calendar, the most important part of the syllabus. The part of the syllabus students will come to 90% of the time to see what's the reading, when is it due, is there an exam? All of these things are very clear. They're highlighted for students. It makes it easy and efficient for students to get the answers they need. That's what you like to see. So, University of Richmond, and again, what was the exact name? Introduction to American Government. Absolutely, syllaBLISS. Okay, there's some things that I would not have done on this syllabus for sure. And again, some of the policies, the makeup policies, those sorts of things, I just think I really don't think that's the right approach. But we've seen now a couple political science syllabi, and everybody has to tackle the fact that you're talking about politics in this moment and time. And there's going to be a lot of intensity around that. I think how instructors do that really speaks to the environment they're setting up. And frankly, of the poli-sci syllabi we've seen thus far, this one does the best job of really telling students that this class is not about teaching you to believe a particular viewpoint. It's teaching you to defend the viewpoints you have. And evidence shows that by doing that, by forcing us to have to defend our viewpoints and to look at the data, that's actually how opinions change or get solidified as we really see how the evidence is or is not consistent with our beliefs. Anyway, Richmond Political Science, University of Richmond Political Science, syllaBLISS. You're getting an old school professor here, folks. When it comes to modern technology, you're not really going to get that. That's not what this class is about. But as far as having interesting conversations about American government, I think this is a class where you're absolutely going to be able to do this. Looks really interesting. Nice job. Hope you like that one, folks. We'll see you next time. Peace.